right now, your brain is probably treating your completely empty physical desk like it's a web browser.
Oh yeah, that classic scenario.
Right, just picture it. You have, 73 tabs open. There is music playing from some completely unknown source.
And the fan is just spinning out of control.
Exactly. The fan is going crazy, and you are just sitting there totally paralyzed. And the crazy thing is, we keep trying to fix this incredibly complex internal software problem by, running out to the store and buying nicer physical folders.
Yeah, it's the ultimate mismatch, really. We crave this visible order, so we read it into our external hardware, like our desks, and just sort of hope our internal software magically updates itself to match.
Which obviously never works.
Never.
And that is exactly why we are so glad you are joining us for today's deep dive. We are exploring a stack of materials today that is, frankly, just wonderfully eclectic.
It really is a wild mix.
Yeah, we've got these highly technical tutorials on Notion databases and Zapier API webhooks, sitting right next to hardcore psychological research on habit formation, neuroplasticity, and attachment theory.
Which seems completely disconnected at first glance, right? I mean, what does a JavaScript API request have to do with how you argue with your partner?
Right, it sounds insane.
But there's actually this really profound thread tying all of this together.
Yeah, and our mission today is to help you discover that thread. We're calling it the ultimate personal operating system. So we're going to start by optimizing your external digital workspace.
Getting the tools right.
Exactly. Then we'll move into automating those tools so they basically run themselves. But then, and this is the crucial part, we have to transition into optimizing your internal workspace.
Your brain.
Your brain's habits, yeah.
And
your emotional attachments. Because, let's face it, the most efficient digital dashboard in the entire world is completely useless if the human running it is just, totally burnt out.
Or emotionally disconnected from everyone around them.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with a digital dashboard. Because to build any functioning system, you need a centralized place where all your information actually lives, right?
Yeah, you need that single pane of glass. And when you look at the current state of Notion's ecosystem, the scale of centralization you can achieve is just staggering.
It really is.
There's this service called iFramely. And through that, Notion allows you to embed live interactive content from over, I think it's 1,900 different domains directly into your workspace.
Wait, 1,900?
Yeah.
So we aren't just talking about, pasting a hyperlink that kicks you to another app in a new tab.
No, not at all. These are fully functional windows. You can drop in a completely interactive Google Map or a highly detailed Figma mockup or entire Miro whiteboards, even live social media feeds.
That's crazy.
Basically taking the context of a dozen different applications and unifying them onto one single page. You really never have to leave the ecosystem.
Which is huge for focus. You don't get distracted by opening a new tab and seeing something else. And that actually brings up the database stacking strategy, which I was watching this brilliant breakdown by Alex Cunningham on this.
Oh yeah, his database strategy is great.
It's so smart. He says the easiest way to create this unified dashboard is to pull all your different isolated databases into one master view. You literally just type / then the word database, and instead of creating a new one from scratch, you select link to database.
And the mechanics of that link function are really crucial to understand here. You aren't duplicating the data.
Right, because that would be a nightmare.
Oh, a total version control nightmare. You'd have 3 different versions of the same project. The original data stays perfectly secure wherever it originally lives in your workspace. You are simply creating a customized window to look at that exact same data from your main dashboard.
Right. But Cunningham points out this really important tweak here that I think most people miss. When you link a database, it automatically defaults to whatever the original view is.
Which is usually just a giant, overwhelming table.
Exactly, a massive spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But to make it actually useful on a customized dashboard, you have to add a new custom view. So maybe a filtered board that only shows your current active projects.
Or just a super clean list view for today's tasks.
Yeah, and I honestly think this is the most satisfying part, you delete that old default view entirely. Just trash it. It completely cuts the visual clutter.
You're intentionally narrowing your field of vision to only what matters right now. And, you can expand that capture net even further with tools completely outside of Notion.
Oh, definitely. Like Workflowy.
Yes, Workflowy is a perfect example. It's designed specifically to reduce the friction of getting an idea out of your head and into a system. They have these features like email to Workflowy.
I love that one.
Right. You just forward an email to a specific unique address and it instantly becomes a node in your system. system. You don't even have to open the app.
I was actually looking at their ICU OCR feature, and it honestly blew my mind.
Oh, the optical character recognition?
Yeah. For those unfamiliar, OCR is optical character recognition. Basically, you can take a photo of a whiteboard or like a page in a physical book, and this ICU feature literally pipes the text directly from the image into your notes as editable text.
It's incredible.
You don't have to type a single word. It's like magic.
And it is entirely about removing friction. Every tiny bit of friction.
So we're basically building a digital command center. Everything is perfectly arranged on our monitors rather than running between completely different rooms to check our files. But here's where I want to push back a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is there a risk of making this all, well, too complex? I mean, at what point are you just playing in a digital sandbox, tweaking fonts and adding custom views and changing cover images instead of actually getting your work done?
That is a very valid concern. It's the classic trap of productivity theater.
Productivity theater, yes.
You feel incredibly productive because you are organizing things, but you aren't actually producing anything of value. But if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the goal here isn't to play with the tools. It is cognitive offloading.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, every single time you switch contexts, like moving from your email over to your project manager, then checking your calendar, you literally burn a measurable amount of mental energy. It takes your brain time to reorient. By centralizing the data, you drastically reduce that friction.
So you're plugging the leaks in your mental battery.
Exactly. Furthermore, there's a highly technical reason to do this right now. It involves MCP, or the Model Context Protocol.
Right, the AI stuff.
Yeah. This is a framework that allows AI agents, like Claude, to actively read and write structured content across your different tools. If your data is centralized and structured cleanly in a single dashboard, the AI can actually understand the relationships between your projects, your tasks, and your notes. It can assist you effectively. So you are offloading all that administration so you can preserve your mental energy for actual meaningful work.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's about protecting the energy. But here's the irony. Setting up that perfect dashboard takes a ton of energy. And keeping it updated manually is going to drain that exact same mental battery we are trying so hard to protect.
Which is the big catch.
Right. So we have to move from just organizing our tools to actually automating. We really need the system to just run itself in the background.
And this is where automation platforms like Zapier come in. Zapier is essentially the digital autonomic nervous system for your tools.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, just like your heart beats without you having to consciously think about it, Zapier connects over 5,000 different apps and they talk to each other automatically. But, and anyone who uses Notion knows this, there has historically been a very, very frustrating limitation when connecting Zapier to Notion databases.
Oh, the relation property issue. This drives people absolutely crazy.
It's notorious.
Say you have a Notion database for submissions coming in from a web form, and then you have a totally separate database for countries. You want Zapier to automatically link a new submission to the correct country in that second database.
But standard Zapier just can't do it.
Right. It just leaves the relation field completely blank, which means you are right back to manual data entry, completely defeating the purpose of setting up the automation in the first place.
Exactly. But William Nutt actually came up with a highly specific workaround for this.
Yes, and I have to admit, when I first read his solution, my eyes crossed a little bit.
It is pretty technical.
He says you generate an internal integration token in Notion. Then you use Zapier's webhook trigger, and instead of a standard action, you flick code by Zapier, and you literally run JavaScript.
Yeah.
You run a PTCH request to the Notion API.
That's right.
Writing a PCH request in JavaScript, doesn't that completely defeat the purpose of using no-code tools? Like, how is a non-programmer listener supposed to utilize this without throwing their laptop out a window?
I completely understand the hesitation. It sounds intimidating. Let's demystify what a PATCH request actually is.
Please do.
Normally, standard Zapier is like a polite guest knocking on Notion's front door. It can drop off a package, like a simple text entry, but it doesn't have the key to the special relations room inside the house.
Okay.
A PATCH request sent through a webhook is basically giving Zapier the master key. It allows the automation to sneak in the back door and update the database architecture directly.
Okay, I like that analogy. But I still don't know how to code the master key. I don't know JavaScript.
And what's fascinating here is that you don't actually need to know how to write the code. Nut provides the exact script. It is literally a copy-paste template.
Oh, really?
Yes, you are just plugging your specific variables, like your property name, your page IDs, and your token into his template.
So it's essentially a highly technical game of Mad Libs. You just fill in the blanks.
Precisely, it's just filling in the blanks. And the broader why here is the return on investment. Yes, it might take you 15 minutes of feeling slightly uncomfortable looking at raw JavaScript.
Sweating a little bit.
Right. But setting up this micro-automation removes hundreds of manual clicks every single month. It bridges the gap perfectly, and we see similar efficiency leaps with Approve It workflows.
Oh man, Approve It. I used to spend Friday afternoons literally copying and pasting CRM data into Slack messages just to get project approvals from my manager.
It is soul-crushing work.
It really is. So when I saw how Approve It connects those systems via Zapier, it just clicked for me. You just grab an API key from your Approve It settings and a workflow key from your builder, and Zapier handles the rest.
It's seamless.
You can trigger an entire approval workflow automatically just by updating a single row in Google Sheets.
So now, if we look at where we are, your external workspace is not only centralized and organized, it is dynamically updating itself.
Which is the dream.
It is. Which brings us to a massive shift in how we think about productivity. Because setting all this up drains your battery. What happens when the human operating this perfect digital system simply runs out of power?
The internal operating system.
Yes.
Because we've got the tech humming perfectly now. But the absolute best digital workflow in the world absolutely fails if you, the human, are running on empty.
The physical and psychological foundation is paramount here. If we look at the science of willpower and a concept called ego depletion, it really changes everything about how we view discipline.
This was a huge light bulb moment for me in the research. The science actually shows that willpower is completely finite.
It runs out.
Right? It is not a personality trait, it is a biological resource. It depletes throughout the day with every single decision you make, including the decision to resist checking your phone. So success isn't about having ironclad discipline. It is about relying on system design and environment design so you don't actually have to use willpower.
Exactly. You cannot brute force your way to sustain productivity. You have to rewire how your brain handles behaviors. And the neuroscience of habit formation explains exactly how to do this. The brain basically relies on two different systems working in parallel.
The reward-based system and the repetition-based system.
Exactly. So when you start a new habit, say learning to use that shiny new Notion dashboard we just built, the reward-based system is entirely in charge.
Okay.
It is driven by dopamine released in the decision-making areas of the brain. It feels good, it's novel, it's exciting, you feel super productive, but eventually, inevitably, that dopamine hit fades.
So if willpower is like your phone's battery, these automatic habits are like putting your brain on low power mode. Right?
That's a great way to put it.
So when that initial dopamine high of starting a new habit wears off, you feel that sudden, overwhelming urge to just quit and go back to your messy, chaotic ways. That's not a moral failing. That is actually just the brain trying to hand the baton over to the repetition-based system.
Yes. What's fascinating here is that the repetition-based system is traced to a completely different part of the brain called the striatum.
The striatum.
Right. When the dopamine drops, you feel a massive lack of motivation. You want to quit. But if you push through that specific window of friction with pure repetition, the striatum takes over. It encodes the behavior. It physically hardwires the habit so it no longer requires dopamine or willpower to execute.
It just becomes what you do.
Exactly.
And to get through that really difficult handoff period, there are some amazing mental fitness tools you can use from the sources. There's the 2-minute rule, which is just keeping the habit ridiculously small to start so you don't trigger that resistance.
Make it too easy to fail.
Right. And then there's Peter Goldwasser's if-then statements, where you literally plan your reaction to obstacles in advance. Like, if I feel too tired to open Notion, then I will just open the app and look at it for 60 seconds.
It preempts the excuse.
Exactly. But I was really taken by Shirzad Shamin's concept of PQ reps.
Positive intelligence quotient reps.
Right. They're just these 10-second exercises. You focus intensely on physical sensations, like rubbing 2 fingers together so intently you can actually feel the microscopic ridges of your fingerprints.
Which sounds so simple.
It does, but the goal is to boost your self-command muscle. You are literally shifting blood flow and electrical activity away from the saboteur region of the brain, the part that causes all that anxiety and stress over to the sage region that handles empathy, innovation, and clear thinking.
And crucially, you have to fuel that biological machinery. You cannot shift brain activity if the brain is starved. The physical foundations required for this mental fitness are completely non-negotiable.
We're talking sleep.
Sleep and hydration, yes, but also specific nutrients. Omega-3s and B vitamins are critical to reduce your baseline anxiety. And creatine is fascinating here. It fuels both physical and mental health.
I feel like people always associate creatine just with like massive bodybuilders at the gym, but it actually fuels neuroplasticity.
It does. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form entirely new neural connections and pathways. When you feed your brain the right nutrients and force it through those 10-second PQ reps, or push past the dopamine drop to engage the striatum, you're physically rewiring the structure of your brain.
You're changing the hardware.
Yes, you are making high-performance behaviors your new biological default.
Okay, so let's check in. We've centralized our tech, we've automated our workflows using API backdoors, and we're actively rewiring our striatum and practicing our PQ reps. We're basically highly optimized productivity cyborgs now.
We are ready for anything.
But humans don't operate in a vacuum. We operate in networks.
And this is the final and perhaps most vital layer of the personal operating system, the relational network. Because your mental fitness directly impacts how you connect with your colleagues, your friends, and your family. And in turn, their responses directly impact your mental battery.
This brings us to attachment theory, which is basically the invisible code running in the background of all our relationships.
It really is the operating system of human connection.
Yeah. And it's usually broken down into four main styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So think about it. If you're someone who feels a sudden, intense spike of panic when a colleague replies to your long, detailed message with just the letter K on Slack, you might be running an anxious attachment script.
We've all been there with the K message.
It's terrifying.
It is. Secure attachment, though, is the ideal operating state. It allows for a really healthy balance of intimacy and independence. You can rely on others and be relied upon without this constant looming fear of rejection or abandonment driving your decisions.
But if you fall into the insecure categories, conflict becomes terrifying. It feels like a literal threat to your survival.
Your saboteur brain takes over completely.
Exactly. The research outlines how to actually heal those attachment wounds. It starts with reflective listening, actually repeating back what the other person said to ensure you understand them, and setting firm but flexible boundaries. Instead of lashing out, you use a highly specific framework on I feel, I need.
It sounds incredibly simple in theory, but in the heat of a conflict, identifying what you actually feel and explicitly stating what you need requires immense self-command.
Which is hard.
Very hard. Which, again, is built through those physical PQ habits we just discussed. And when ruptures inevitably do happen, utilizing the Gottman method to repair connections is crucial.
Can we break down a specific mechanic of the Gottman method? Because it gets brought up a lot in this space.
Certainly. One of the core mechanics is turning toward bids for connection.
Bids for connection.
Yes. A bid is basically any attempt from another person to get your attention, affection, or support. It could be as simple as them looking out the window and saying, wow, look at that bird outside.
Okay.
Turning toward them means engaging with it, saying, oh yeah, what kind is it? Ignoring them or sighing or snapping at them is turning away. Gottman's research shows that couples or teams who consistently turn toward these tiny bids build up emotional engagement.
That actually.
Exactly. It acts as a buffer during actual serious conflicts.
I love it. Speaking of conflict, there was one highly specific, slightly absurd tactic in the sources for breaking tension during an argument that I just thought was brilliant.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
It's called the physical reset. When an argument is spiraling totally out of control, you explicitly challenge each other to, quote, shake your ass.
It is a very abrupt pattern interrupt.
I just love the real-world practicality of it. Like, you're in a heated argument about who forgot to load the dishwasher, someone yells, shake your ass, and you literally have to change your physical posture and start dancing.
You can't stay mad doing that.
You can't. It induces laughter, it immediately shifts your mind chemistry, and it creates this lighthearted reset.
Because it forces you out of that fight or flight saboteur brain state. When you laugh and move physically, you drop back into the sage brain where you can actually communicate logically again.
But, I want to push back on this attachment stuff for a second. Let's say my attachment style was heavily programmed in early childhood, which most are.
Yes, usually by age 7.
Right. So if I've been running an anxious or avoidant emotional script for 30 years, aren't I permanently wired this way. I mean, can I really update this part of my operating system?
That is a very common fear, but the answer is a resounding yes. If we connect this back to the bigger picture of what we've been discussing, just as you can write a new API script in JavaScript to change how Notion behaves, you can absolutely rewrite your relational scripts. Psychologists call it earned secure attachment.
Earned secure attachment. That is incredibly relieving. It means you aren't sentenced to the emotional habits you formed at 7 years old.
Not at all.
It's software you can actually patch. You just have to work for it.
You do. Because of neuroplasticity, your brain is never finished wiring. Through consistent, predictable, and supportive behaviors over time, like practicing reflective listening, turning toward those bids for connection, and actively repairing conflict, you physically rewire those attachment pathways in your brain. You earn the security by practicing it repeatedly until the striatum takes over, just like any other habit, and it becomes your new default response to the world.
Wow. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's recap this massive journey we've been on today. We started by taking control of your external knowledge, using iframely embeds to build a unified Notion dashboard, and stripping away the visual clutter with custom views so your brain can actually focus.
Then, we bridged the gaps in that digital system. We moved past standard limitations by using a Zapier webhook and a JavaScript PCH request to sneak into the back door of the API, completely automating data entry and saving your finite mental battery.
From there, we turned inward. We acknowledged that willpower is a biological resource that drains like a battery. We learned how to push past the initial dopamine drop to engage the striatum, building habits that actually last on low power mode.
We learned to quiet the panicked saboteur brain with 10-second physical PQ reps.
And fuel our neuroplasticity with the right nutrients like creatine and omega-3s.
And finally, we applied all of that mental fitness to our relational networks. We looked at how to heal insecure attachments, utilize the Gottman method of turning toward bids, and perhaps use a quick physical reset dance to secure our connections with the people around us.
Because true productivity and true well-being simply don't exist in silos. They come from aligning both the digital tools we use and the psychological tools we possess. But before we go, we want to leave you with a final lingering question. Something to just kind of chew on as you go about your day.
Consider this. Our digital tools, like Notion's AI model context protocol, are rapidly learning to perfectly adapt to our inputs, our structures, and our habits. At the exact same time, because of neuroplasticity, our brains are highly plastic, constantly physically adapting to the environment and the tools we use every day.
So who is actually programming whom?
That's the real question.
Are we designing our digital tools and our relationships to serve us? Or are those very tools and interfaces subtly designing our neural pathways without us even realizing it? I mean, when you stare at that browser with 73 tabs open, is it a reflection of your chaotic mind? Or did the browser itself train your mind to be that way?
It's an essential question to ask as we continue to build our personal operating systems.
It really is. Thank you so much for exploring this with us. We hope you take these tools, both the digital and the psychological, and use them to close those tabs, clear your desk, and build an operating system that truly serves you.